death rather than sin, how a school textbook sparked outcry in Poland. In the midst of rising concerns about child and youth, for the sake of YouTube, I'm going to say self deletions in Poland. A third grade school book endorsed by the country's Catholic Church has drawn significant criticism for featuring a quote suggesting that it's better to die than to sin. The textbook utilized in public schools contains the statement, quote, I prefer to die than to sin, which is traced back to Dominic Savio, a young Italian saint. The inclusion of this line triggered a cascade of disapproval from social media users, activists, and NGOs, with one NGO coalition emphasizing the potential for such content to severely impact a child's psyche, potentially fostering feelings of guilt and, I will say, self deletion tendencies. The church maintains the sentiment has been misconstrued and taken out of its intended context, but the publisher conceded that the phrasing's unfortunate nature and promised revisions in upcoming editions. Amidst the uproar, the education ministry declined to comment. They emphasized that while the state finances Catholic catechism classes in public schools, the curriculums, teaching materials, and teachers are exclusively chosen by the church. Even though these classes are elective, the majority of students participate.
What the hell?
Yes. Oh, yeah. This is wild. So imagine teaching third graders who I don't know what the age is in Poland, but in America, that's around the age of 8. That yeah, I prefer to die than to sin. How could
Very.
that be harmful to children?
Hmm. Disgusting. I mean, this reminds me of a lot of Islamic schools
Mhm.
that talking about martyrdom and how when I was a kid, how old was I? I was grade 3 or 2, I don't remember, right? So like maybe 9 or 10 years old or 8 years old, I don't know exactly, but we had in our school books um the story of a kid our age, like maybe just a little bit older, who basically self-deleted himself in war, and he became like he was introduced to us as a hero. So, and we were constantly told in school how great it is to basically self-delete yourself as in the way of Allah, for Allah, which is like weird, like now that I think about it, how much death was celebrated. So this just reminds me of that. But
Mhm.
I had a teacher in school that cried. A grown man cried in our class about the fact that he didn't get to die in the Iran-Iraq war. Like
How old were
this
you
is,
in that class?
I don't know, like um, I don't, maybe 10 or 11.
Oh,
I
Jesus Christ.
don't remember. Right. So Malam Parvarishi they call. But
Holy
like
cow.
imagine, and people were like, "Oh my god, such a great man! Wow, sir, you're such a like." It's seen as a sign of purity and sincerity in your religion that you welcome death so much. I know these are death cults. Like Abrahamic religions are just death cults. So
Mhm.
just keep your religion and keep your children as far away as you can. As a parent, you have to understand when your children are getting exposed to Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, you know, you're promoting an ideology to them that values death over life. I mean, if you
Mhm.
value the afterlife over this life, that's what you're
Mhm.
teaching your children, to celebrate death rather than living. You're
Oh
you're
my
part of a
god.
death cult.
We were talking about this recently in terms of a Persian YouTuber that has been talking about like aliens and stuff and to like focus on that. Like anyone that tells you to focus more on like the life beyond this life, you need to treat with suspicion. Let me reiterate that. If anyone is telling you to focus on a life beyond this life, treat them with suspicion. But I want to
Mm.
give a little bit more context because part of the textbook says, quote, "When I was 7 years old, I received the Holy Communion. I then made resolutions that I followed for the rest of my life," reads the passage. It then lists those resolutions, with the fourth resolution being, quote, "I prefer to die than to sin." The quote, which is attributed to Dominic Savio, a Italian boy who died at the age 14 in 1857 and was made a saint a century later, is often translated into English simply as death rather than sin. And animation is bringing up a good point. He's saying, wait, doesn't this encourage self deletion, which itself is a sin? And that's
Mm.
basically exactly what the church defended. They were like, well, yeah, here's what a representative said. They are certainly not an encouragement to self-deletion as indicated by the context of the image used, but also by the fact that self-deletion itself in the teachings of the church is defined as a grave offense against the love of God and neighbor. So then they were
Yeah,
like, this is
well,
just an
here's
overinterpretation. But you're
no, no.
teaching this to children. Do you think children can really grasp this? Like, if
No,
people
so
wonder why Catholics have a guilt complex, I would just like to say that this is a part of it. As a recovering ex-Catholic, people don't understand why I feel guilty all the time.
here's the thing. This is actually worse than this defense makes it worse, right? So what you're doing is saying that death sin is so shameful because imagine the trauma and the guilt and the disgust people have because of Abrahamic religion as children of themselves, because of the thoughts that they're having, because of the things that they're doing. You know what children need the most is a sense of security, a sense of self confidence, a sense of love, a sense of acceptance. That's what every time you talk to child psychologists, that for a healthy development of a child's brain, this is what you need. And religion does the exact opposite, right? It promotes self-disgust. It teaches you that you're worthy of torture and
Shame.
you are sinful, and you're sinful and you need to be ashamed of it. This is the unhealthiest way that you could raise a child with that kind of a mindset. But then that it goes further. So it says you are discussing because you're sinning, and it would have been better off if it's telling you that you would have been better off if you died. Like you're better dead, right? Because you sin. That's what it's telling you. And by the way, that's not an option, because if you do that, then that's also a sin. So it just puts you in the trauma. Like it's maximum trauma, maximum emotional trauma, right? So it tells you that the thing that you're afraid of, most people are afraid of, are death. You don't have that as an option, but if you had that as an option, you would have been better off doing that. Like imagine the teaching here. Like it cannot be any more disgusting. It's so vile. Yeah. But it's
Yeah,
what makes the church grow, though,
it's
because it makes it.
psychologically damaging.
And I think it's psychological damaging, and it helps the church because you hurt people and then you offer them a solution to their pain. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a make believe hospital that goes around and injures people as a way to increase its business. That's kind of what we have here, because it emotionally traumatizes you, and then as an emotional damaged person, it tells you that we have the solution to all your pain. It makes it seem as if this the feeling that you have, this self-disgust, shame that you have, it's natural. It doesn't tell you that we actually made you this way. Like you're not supposed to feel this way. It makes it seem like um this is a how the human mind is this is a natural way that the human mind is. So all that guilt and shame, it tells you that that's just the state of the human mind. You feel like that because we're naturally sinful. And a lot of religious people don't understand that outside of this religious mindset, a lot of people don't feel like that. They think like this is how they're born. This is what you're supposed to feel like. But they don't tell you that we were the ones who injured you this way. We are the ones who made you like this. This is not normal.
Indoctrinate you into
Yeah.
believing within the core of your essence that you are broken, and then saying we are the only ones that can heal you.
Yes.
This is what
Yeah.
like abusive partners do. No one can love you how I can love you,
Right.
because otherwise
They,
you're unlovable.
exactly. This is why they always say sin is an imaginary disease, so that they could sell you an imaginary cure. Yeah. All right. We should
Gasian
move on.
American gave us a super chat. Thank you for
Oh.
the super chat, Gasian. It's saying, give me liberty or give me, and then insert Chinese character energy.
Oh.
Gasian,
Thank you,
what is
Gasian.
the Chinese character? You know we can't read this.
I mean, I know what it is. It's death, obviously.
But I feel like knowing Gasian, it would be too simplistic to say that Chinese
No.
character means death. It's got to be more complicated and confusing.
Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.